is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning at 12 minutes after 9 o'clock, and it continues. And our live streams have been up through the morning on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X. Thank you for keeping it here with us, and also our audience on KTN this morning. Conversations continue. We're going to get into one just now. And this is seen as a landmark exam, this one that's currently going on. And this is because you're going to see that at the time, when the current grade 9s who are sitting in the KJSEA, they were in grade 3. They had just finished standard 2, and the curriculum then changed in November 2018, I won't forget. And so they were going to go into grade 3 come 2019 January, as they were going to go to standard 3, but then they were going to go in as grade 3. So they are the pioneer class of the CBC, which is now CBE. Now, to see them transition fully from lower primary to upper primary, and then now past junior secondary, and then into what we are calling pathways, is what is being called landmark, in terms of having been able to get through the system that was envisioned for them to be able to do this. That has actually happened. And that they will then sit this exam, and that they're starting to do that now, after having started yesterday, and they'll do this for 6 days. That they'll get to a place whereby they will get to grade 10 in January 2026. And remember that this exam that they're taking is a placement exam, essentially, but not placing you in a particular class, but placing you in a position for the pathway that you're going to go into. It's being called landmark. You know my reservations already.
I wanted to tell you, you've used a government terminology. Landmark.
Landmark. I borrowed it from somebody. I said, okay, this looks nice. Let's use it for today. Right? So this is the conversation that we're having today, and enabling us to do that, or helping us out with this conversation this morning, so that we can look into it properly, is Stephen Rekesa, who is the principal of the Senior School Moi Education Center, and he's here with us this morning. Stephen, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Very fine. How are you doing?
I am fine. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be here this morning.
I'm glad that you did.
Thank you.
It's being called a historic first, CBE on the weigh scale as national exam starts. And we're going to be looking into this, and we're saying, are we finally at the place where, well, I'm going to go beyond myself here. Let's welcome you properly to today's show. Dennis is going to share today's proverb with you, and we would love to get your interpretation.
Okay.
Yeah, so today we are in Sao Tome and Principe.
Okay.
Yeah. And the capital and largest city is Sao Tome, located on the island of the same name, Sao Tome and what? And Principe. Now, the country gained independence from Portugal on July 12, 1975, and some of the biggest exports they have is cocoa. So if you're a lover of chocolate, perhaps you've had a bit of Sao Tome and Principe. But let's go to the proverb today. Soft water on hard stone hits until it pierces. Soft water on hard stone hits until it pierces. What would be your interpretation to that?
Wow. Thank you so much, Dennis, and thank you, team, for having me here this morning. I'm glad to be here joining you for this very wonderful session as we discuss CBE, and more so with this whole the idea of examination that began yesterday. Now, if I were to interpret your proverb, that soft water on the hard rock, one of the things I want to look at it from this point is small things done consistently, they end up bearing fruits. Consistently, small but consistently, it has a way of making things work out. So even with a small drop of water, even on a small rock, done consistently at the same place every now and then, it has a chance of breaking that rock. So that will be my interpretation for now.
And your interpretation, remember, is never wrong. It's always right. And yes, consistency and perseverance as well, and just focus always yields results. Well interpreted, well said.
Thank you.
Indeed. So the ministry used this word landmark. We heard that one Migos Ogamba said this landmark, and he was very happy yesterday when the exams kicked off and everybody was doing okay. KJSEA, of course, the first of its exam, whereby we are not saying that if you don't score an A, you will not go to senior school. What we're saying with this exam is that we're going to take the sum total of all that you've done over the last 9 years, has it been? And then we're going to say, based on this and the pathway that you have selected, it will now place you well with it. It will help the teachers now to then be able to know how competent you are for this area. It will help the system to understand you a little bit better. And so we are moving away from the pressure of students on getting that A in order for you to get to study math, science, right? And so we're looking at competencies. Is it landmark, Stephen?
Okay, I think I will say it's a landmark because there is the first time in the history of this country we have 3 exams happening at the same time.
Yep.
We have this KPSEA, which is for the grade 6, and then we have now the KJSEA, it's for the grade 9, and then we have the Form 4 that are also doing the KCSE. So essentially that's a landmark, and also why we call it a landmark is because one, KJSEA, this is the first time that we're having an examination that is being done by the grade 9.
Yes.
You know, initially what we knew was exam would be done in class 8.
Yes.
And then that is it. But this is the first cohort of the CBE that who did their first examination in 2022. That was the KPSEA. So essentially it's a landmark in a sense that it has never happened before. This is the first time it is happening. And I also want to say something that you've already said there in terms of taking away the pressure from the students and all that. One of the key things that we are used to as a nation, especially during this time of examination, I know parents out there will be waiting to see, if it was KCP, for example, they're waiting to see how many 400 marks have been scored by maybe specific students in a school. And that, to some extent, has a way of creating pressure around the student, also of course the school. Because now the school in this case, they're forced to do what? They're forced to do sometimes, not so good things to get those 400 marks. So for me, the fact that we are moving away from the aspect of putting so much pressure on the students to get those 400 marks, to get the A's and all that, is a landmark in education system. Because the pressure is now being diverted into other things like competencies. Because we all know that the CBC or the CBE, CBE being the system, and of course now CBC being the curriculum that's being implemented. One of the key things that about the CBC is about what is needed. We're looking at the competencies that are supposed to be created in this learner, and we are talking about things such as critical thinking. Talking about things like problem solving, which are part and parcel of the 21st century skills that are needed in any society. So for me, the fact that the government has seen the need to move away from just testing rote learning and testing values and competencies.
It's
different completely.
Okay, because I've seen some questions, and so 2 things. Where previously on an exam it would be 21x time plus 1 equals y, find x. Now we see the questions have changed, whereby we're asking you, the formula remains the same, but we've given you a scenario where we say Dennis went to market and there were 21 times of a particular product that he bought. How many? So it's having us to think around a scenario as opposed to just looking at the science of it and getting the answer. So that allows me to actually think, okay, what are they looking for? Now, whereas that may be the case in terms of the questioning and the learning around the topics, teachers understanding that what we're trying to do is to bring out the best from this student, because we still hear teachers saying, we must pass this exam, whether it's KPSEA. We still hear teachers saying right now, my son came back yesterday from day 1 of KPSEA, and it's prayers and hopes for tomorrow. KJSEA, we hear the same thing. We must pass because we must get into a correct standing. So there's still the emphasis on the examination. When will we make that transition to understanding that what I'm trying to do as a teacher is to draw out this child's competencies? Because essentially, this grade 9 and you're a senior school principal. So this grade 9 who selected their pathways in the second term, it's taking them to a particular area where they want to study. So does that mean that if I don't do well in KJSEA and I have said I want to be a pilot, I need to be okay with my maths, I need to be okay with my physics and all of these things, will they now come and tell me later, okay, you need to work a little better here, you need to be a little bit stronger here, or will they say, well, you failed this exam, so forget pilotry? You see what I'm saying? How are we really moving on? Or have we said it's a system and we're doing it no matter what?
If I'm to answer your question, I want to look at it from a point of the government and also the private sector. And I want to use a scenario from our institution, MOI, for this case. In MOI Education Center, one of our requirements has always been that we retrain our teachers.
Okay.
We retool our teachers to be acceptable and also to accept the changing dynamics of education. And the reason for retooling is that you cannot, face the current generation with the mindset of what you went through in school for maybe in the last 20 years or so. So a time comes when you have to try and make sure that you're also up to the task. And that is done through retooling. So for us as an institution, we've been very vocal in ensuring that our staff are well trained and retooled to be able to handle the pressure that comes with the CBC and the CBE curriculum. Now, one thing that you mentioned here that is very paramount for us to understand is there is this issue of where you're saying that you want to be a pilot. And of course, being a pilot or any other for that matter, there is a specific subject that have to go past that about the career that you've chosen to follow through. Now, our biggest issue and our biggest problem as a country has always been that we are looking at the end results. We are not looking at the processes of getting there. So until we're able to look at the process of getting there, then the end result will always be what we expect. And when it turns out that not exactly what you expected, you may consider the person as a failure. So becoming a pilot or becoming an engineer, of course, there's a process of you getting there. In this case, if you were to pursue I'm a senior school teacher, and I'm here because I know we are expecting to receive the first cohort of the senior school in the next year. That is 2026.
That's grade 10
That's
now.
grade 10.
Okay.
Yeah. That's grade 10, 2026. And you see, with the grade 10 coming on board, there are 3 pathways that are supposed to be, offered by schools.
Right.
The schools that are going to offer triple pathway like ourselves. We're going to offer three pathways as Mombasa Education Center. We have those triple pathways. We have schools that
also, you can do that. You don't have to be a STEM school or a humanities school or okay.
Actually, the government through their communication, they have said that at least every school should be able to offer STEM.
Okay.
So we are schools that are going to offer triple pathways, and there are those schools that are going to offer double pathways. So double pathways is that you can pick the STEM and also have probably the social sciences or art and sports.
Oh, yeah.
Now, much goes. Parents and the students, because at the end of the day, it is not me as a teacher who is going to sit for who is going to transit. It is the learner who is going to do what to transit, and the learner must be able to be given the right information even as they make their choices in terms of what career pathway do I need to follow through. So what I'll advise and what I'll say is that as I said earlier on, if I'm using an example of our institution as Mombasa Education Center, we have this program in place where we ensure that our students get to be taken through all those things before even they sit for the examination.
Okay.
This has been something I've been doing for the longest time. Ever since CBC came on board, MEC has been a forefront on ensuring that the parents and the students are well taken care of in terms of what exactly are they looking for. Actually, we're among the few schools that have been we've been used as a center of excellence among this country. Among the few schools that have been used as a center of excellence. Why is it so? Because we were very intentional in ensuring that our teachers, first of all, they are retooled for the senior school that is going to go for next year. Yeah. Right now, as a school, we have done more than 3 sessions with them, just retooling them. We have another one coming up this weekend, and also in the month of December, just to try and make sure that they're well prepared to face what is coming up. Because remember, again, we're going to face a different generation. These students, we must rethink on how we are going to approach them in terms of course, teaching, but also at the same time in terms of what? Discipline.
Sure.
Because the way we discipline maybe our 844 may not be the same the way we're going to do it to discipline. These are the Gen Zs and the Alpha that
Plus
come.
they're 15, 16-year-olds now as they're coming into grade 10.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a slightly different thing that we need to be able to look at. And what we needed to do, and this is what the government needed to do, is to ensure that even in the public schools, we get to a point of where every teacher is retooled to understand that we are not going into that space with the mindset of rote learning. Let this learner cram. If I cram, I'll get my A. You can, remember the aspect of what we used to do in primary. You do the picky ponky. You draw a circle ABC. Then sometimes you drop a pen and then you pick an A, and that becomes your answer.
What?
Yeah. So that used to happen. But if you look at the way the CBC and the CBC examination have been structured, especially with the KJSEA. KJSEA, they have what called the MCQs. MCQs are what called the multiple choice questions. There's that part of the multiple choice question. But what I'm liking more about the CBC and the KJSEA examination is there's a part of the structured questions. The structured question is where now we need to see, as you said earlier on, it's not about Dennis who went to the market and bought ABCD. You need to be able to define the process.
Right.
Or how did we arrive at this point? And that is where exactly the issue of now choosing the pathway comes in place. We will not just lump students together and say, because you're doing well in mathematics, so I think the best thing for you to do is what? Is to become maybe an engineer. No. There are so many other things that need to be looked at. And that has to be defined from the word go by the school itself and of course the student. They have to be, they're the center of everything.
I mean, so in this entire new structure, new way of looking things, retooling our teachers, we also note that CBE and the curriculum itself has introduced parents as core stakeholders in this, in the sense that you'd see even in homeworks, parents are supposed to chip in and sit with their children to ensure that homework is done and all that. So how has that changed the game, in the sense that parents are part of the process and not just sitting at home waiting for the results after the exams are sat?
Dennis, to answer your question, for me, we call education is like you allow me to use a Swahili word there. Education is like a harambe. What do you mean by harambe? The late president used to call what? Pulling together.
Yes,
coming together.
Yeah.
Okay, so for us, education is like a harambe. What that simply means that it calls for the effort of everyone to be on board for us to be able to do what? To achieve a target. We have three people here, tripartite. We have the student, we do have the parent, and we have what? The school. So if the school does not work with the student and the parent, then trust me, it's like we have this traditional cooking space where if one of the stone is not available, then trust me, there'll be no balance. So the fact that CBE has allowed parents to be involved, for me as a teacher, it has helped me a lot. Why am I saying that? It's because the parental involvement goes beyond actually that's the books and all that. The fact that you're able to sit down with your child, you're able to listen to him, you're able to talk to him or her, you're able to understand what they're going through each and every day, and also just understanding what kind of lessons, what kind of education is happening at school. It makes you, as a parent, appreciate the magnitude of education. You don't just leave it to the teachers only or the student only, but by being an active participant in the learning process of your child, this child grows knowing that I'm covered by both the school and also when I go at home, I'm also doing that, I'm also covered. Now, when CBC came on board, around, that should be in early 20s there, 2020, 2019 there, I think there was a misconception in terms of what kind of information or what kind of assignments were to be done by the parents. You remember those days when you see the parents having to even clash with teachers, telling them that the teachers have been asked to bring what? Chicken to school.
Yeah.
That was never the case. I think there was just a misinterpretation of all those things. And that is something that we've done as a school to ensure that our parents are well informed of what their role is. So there is a role in which the role the parent plays, and there's a role that the students play. So the best thing to do is, as a school, you must take an initiative and get these parents involve in the day-to-day learning of these children. Share with them the expectation from the word go. Share with them from the beginning of the term. What are your expectations? What are you looking forward to? What do you want these parents to do to contribute towards the learning of these children? That one will avoid a situation where you will think that I've asked you to bring chicken, and yet that is not even the case. So that misconception, I think, I'm happy that I speak right now, that has been cleared, and the parents are now starting to understand their role when it comes to management of education, and also what is their contribution to the overall welfare of these students.
I'm looking at countries that have actually adopted systems and changed, in this case, the education systems. And I'm looking at rollouts in terms of the phases and what it took to then implement a lot of the systems. CBC was to replace what I think Aseto and I went through 844, which was more of memorization, where you have to memorize formulas, like memorize theories.
What is biology?
Yes, and so on and so forth. Yes. What is an integer and what not? And it's moving from that space then to teach children competencies. This is skills, this is values, because there's a demand at the end of the day. I want to refer to a study that was done, and just to narrow this down, this is a 2025 study, and this was done in Kinangop sub-county, where they took a sample of what then it takes to take teachers through understanding what then they need to teach the learners. And what they found is a mean score for teachers' awareness of the CBC in its entirety. Teachers admitted that they were still using many of the old curriculum strategies, because they are also coming from the same system we all went through, or even the previous one, which was more of you have to memorize, you must define this. And in the definition, if you miss two keywords, then you are given an X. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you're given a mean score, and then there's poor, there's very poor.
Excellent.
What was worse than very poor?
Pull up your socks.
Pull up your socks. And all that. Yeah. And we all went through that. But now here's a situation where I was speaking to this teacher, and they're saying, no, you can't put an X now. You put a dot. Yeah. If a question is wrong, you put just a dot. You don't say very poor, you don't say fair, you don't say above average, you don't say any of those things. Now, teachers are saying they're using those old curriculum strategies rather than fully embracing the CBC methods. Now, in terms of training, now in reference to what other countries have done, where 66.5% of teachers in this study had not attended any CBC implementation training. 66.5% had not attended any. Another found a large number of teachers felt unprepared to align their teaching and assessment methods with the requirements of this new system. So, this is what we're dealing with. Teachers who have low capacity to prepare schemes of work, lesson plans, and records of work that align with CBC. So this is a teacher, and this is just one sample size from Kinangop. And the study is revealing these things. And if you duplicate this across the country, definitely find more or less the same. True. So you have teachers on one hand who needed to have gone through a thorough training, then implement this thing in phases. Then you have learners who are now coming into this space, and they expecting teachers to then teach them. Then you are roping in parents. I was trying to do homework for my daughter, and when I went to school, into this is what I was told. I was told, no, Dennis, how we used to pronounce words and how we used to say A for apple, B for ball. So I go and I'm told, no, that's not how, you shouldn't do that. Actually, usifanya hivyo, just leave it. So the confusion is, I'm also not trained, or not, I'm supposed to, I didn't know A for apple had changed. I'm using that as an example. Did we implement this too early? Should we have given this time so that you look at these different groups? You deal with teachers first, so that you reduce this 66.5%. Then start bringing in the parents to fully understand what the system is. Then now introduce this thing to the children who are sitting these exams and are supposed to come to institutions like yours, so that all of us are prepared and know what is expected of us.
Oh, I agree with you, and as you said, it's not just in Kinangop only. It could be, if you replicate that across the country, then you are looking at a very huge population, because maybe Kinangop will be a better place. So there's some other far-flung areas that probably have never even seen this, even they don't even know what is happening with the CBC. Now, the question to do with, did we implement CBC too soon, or were we ready for the CBC? I'll say I may not have the right answer on that question, but we need to ask ourselves, where are we headed as a nation? There's a reason as to why the aspect of implementing CBC came on board, because there was an aspect of job market. And I'm sure when you do research, you'll understand that we were at a given point where we are told that the job market is flooded with people who are graduates, and yet these graduates may not be able to do what, even to do simple tasks. And that's also informed the aspect of, now, do we need to teach more competencies as compared to just what going through the school? Because if we were to look at, I think statistics, I may not have the final figure, but I know we have almost 1.something million of graduates in this country. But some of those graduates may not even know how to do what, even to speak. Some of them don't even know
public.
In public.
Okay.
They can't even. I know some graduates who can't even sit down and do what, and write their own CV. If you were to ask them to define who they are, they can't define who they are. And I think that is where the CBC came in to cure that kind of anomaly. CBC was supposed to create an environment, or rather create an individual who is well competent, who is well versed with values and all that. Now, I don't think there's always the right time to implement something.
Yeah.
There's no right time to implement, because the more you wait for something to be implemented, sometimes it may take it may never happen. So there is no right time for implementation. The best thing to do is, as Dennis has said here, probably maybe it could have been in a phased approach, so that we have can we then train the teachers up to this level, and then let's expose them to the need, because I'm sure even the universities, by the time this CBC was being rolled out, not all universities had created the curriculum around that system. But I'm happy to report that right now, I think majority of the universities offering education right now, they have been able to create that curriculum that is now able to train the teachers. As you leave the university, you are now competent enough to handle this CBE. It is not about when, but how. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Moi Education Center recently introduced the Cambridge curriculum.
Yeah.
How does this complement the CBC system? And what is in it for learners?
Now, I'll want to tie that question to the earlier one that you asked me about the parents not being aware, sometimes not having been trained well on what is happening in the CBC. We have seen an influx of parents who are trying, because they're not so sure of what CBC is all about. So what they're trying to do is to find an established curriculum. And you see, you're talking about the established curriculum. For us, we'll be talking about 844, which is being phased out. So that leaves only the Cambridge International Education System, and of course the IB and the K12, which is normally for the North American system. Now, make in the need to ensure that our parents have an option, so that whoever says that I want to do what, I want to try something different, we provide an option for you. You see the bit about Cambridge. Cambridge has a chance of expanding the mind of a student to the global perspective. And therefore, as an institution, we saw the niche to ensure that if this parent feel like I want to move my child to Cambridge, then MEC is there for you. MEC is a comprehensive school, so to speak. It's a comprehensive school in that we begin from creche. Creche, those are the small babies, 6 months, 1 year. If you have a child to bring on board, that we have a space for you for that matter.
1 year.
Yeah. You know what I mean by 1 year is that I'll use an example of here. Maybe you're working. you may not have a place to leave your child.
Okay.
But you feel like, well, I don't want to employ a nanny
Yes.
for that matter.
Yeah.
So MEC will give you a space. You'll say you can come in and
Kind of like,
yes.
so it's not like daycare, but
Yes.
with some teaching.
Yes,
or
yes,
with
yes.
Some,
With some
learning,
teaching,
rather.
yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, we'll train you, for example, how to use simple things like the toilets and all that at that age. So it's not like a full day worth of learning. You can drop that child for 6 hours, 2 hours, whichever, depending on where you're going. So we are a comprehensive school. Comprehensive school means that we are able to cater for the needs of every parent out there, from creche all the way to senior school. And now, with the introduction of the Cambridge, we are simply saying that you do not have to think about an option, because MEC is giving you an option of ensuring that you want your child to get internationally recognized certificate in Cambridge and whatever, then we are there for you. So the aspect that we are bringing Cambridge is to complement what you already have, the CBC.
Yeah.
Okay.
You see, Steve, as we speak right now, there is the grade 10s who are now coming to our institution, right? And with that now, it is the entire conversation on the pathways, how we are prepared to receive them in terms of facilities, talk about the curriculum, making sure that all the bolts are tightened up, right? So just how has MEC prepared itself for these new cohort of students in terms of ensuring that as they continue in transition, everything is straight?
Yeah, as an institution, one of the key things that we did, first of all, we invest in facilities. For us, facilities is a big thing, because if you're looking at accommodating every child, then you have to provide space for these children. You have to give them labs, you have to give them classes, we have to give them well-equipped laboratories, science, and also, of course, the ICT. So as an institution, as I said earlier on, for us as an institution, we are going to offer 3 pathways. That is the STEM, the social sciences, and also the art and sports. So the reason for that is that we do not want a student who has been through our school to end up losing a space simply because maybe we were not in a capacity to provide what this child wanted. So MEC has the facilities. That is number 1. Number 2, MEC has well-trained staff. As I said earlier on, our staff, let me just tell you something. Early this year, you remember that this year, it was a very unique year for Kenyan system because, number 1, we didn't have Form 1s.
Yes.
We didn't have Form 1s this year.
And
so,
neither do you have grade 8,
yes.
class 8s, rather.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there was a need. Of course, we will have we have a staff, a huge staff. As a school, I've said that we are going to release this staff and let them go because we don't have grade 1, Form 1. But we took an initiative of retooling and retraining our staff and to have them support the junior school, the grade 9. Now, the beauty about that is that these teachers who have been able to teach grade 9, they have the knowledge of what is needed even as they transit to grade 10. Because this teacher has been with this learner for at least a year. He or she understands how CBC is being handled. So as they transit to the senior school, we have the same teacher who's going to transit with this child. Understand, of course, now he understands the portfolio of this child. He understands the needs of this student. So as a school, we have retrained our staff to ensure that they are well competent to handle the CBC. The other thing that we've done, and actually, next week I'm having a meeting with the parents of grade 9. What's the cohort of the 2026 grade 6, grade 10.
Grade 10, yeah.
So the reason why we are meeting with these parents, and this has been happening at MEC for the longest time in a year, there is every time we always have meetings with our parents. Why are we meeting with the parents? Because, you notice that the government every now and then gives information on what needs to be done.
Yeah.
For example, when it comes to pathway selection, what is the requirement for the student? What are students required to do? Maybe, for example, if you want to go to, STEM, because as KJSEA is being done right now, I'm sure you might be aware that KJSEA will account for about 60%
Yes.
of the total marks are going to be scored
Grades.
by.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there is 20% that is done by what? By the school, which called the school-based assessments, popularly known as CBS.
Yeah.
And then we have now the 20%.
What used to be CATs?
Yes.
Yeah,
What
okay.
used to be, what you'd call them CATs.
Yeah.
But now we have the CBS,
Okay.
which now to be uploaded. You see that the CATs you can upload on a NEC portal.
Right.
But now for the CBS, you can be able to upload the NEC portal. And then we have now the KPSEA.
Yeah.
That was done in grade 6. So the 20 of KPSEA and then the 20 of the CBS will add up to the 60 of what? the KJSEAs to give us the final grade for these students.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is if it's comprehensive across board, so that exam that you take at grade 3, it's not called an exam anymore. The assessment that you take at grade 3, with this assessment that you take, which is the KPSEA at grade 6, and then the assessment that you take in grade 9 of the KJSEA, and then the final one that you do in grade 12, which will come along in another couple of years, is that there's a little bit of everything that is put together that will now tell us how you did in your primary and secondary school education. There's a little bit of everything.
Yes.
So it's continuous and comprehensive across board. That's the aim.
Yes.
Okay, I get that.
But just
finish that. Sorry, then
just to add on that, you realize the government actually is saying that for this grade 9, they will even be given a certificate.
They won't. Yes.
They won't be given a certificate.
Yeah.
It will come after
12.
The 12. Yeah.
Okay. So the pathways have been chosen. We've got some 3,000 and something schools that were not selected anywhere by anybody. What will happen to them, we don't know. The ministry maybe will tell us in terms of what happens to those schools. They obviously will not be obsolete, because what a waste of resources that would be. But then what if along the line, and this is where I guess the retooling for teachers comes into play. Because at the university level, when I'm a freshman in university, my first year university, I take general courses because I may go in saying I want to study journalism or international relations, and then maybe I want to change my major along the way, right? Because I've realized, okay, wait a minute, job market, opportunity, general interest, all comes into play. So we cannot run away from the pressure that these learners feel. They're in grade 9. They're at the age where they're impressionable. They have nowhere near developed fully. They cannot make decisions on their own to the extent that they can make a life decision on that selection. I'm using a long way of saying that it's possible that maybe I would want to change my pathway even after I have started grade 10. Is it cast in stone? Or will a teacher with the retooling be able to notice and say, Dennis is in STEM, but the things I hear him talk about, how I see him operate, what I see him do, maybe his interest in the future would be towards the social sciences. Can you then, because for me, what a comprehensive education would mean is that the teacher, the guide, would then be able to look and say, Nana, this learner could actually do better, or this is where his interests lie, and then we can make a change. Or are we still going to go back the same way and say, well, you selected STEM, and until death do you part you and STEM, that is where you will stay?
Not really. That's not the case. At least from where I sit and from what I have, the information I have, is that this child who is going to pick STEM probably, or even social sciences right now, they still have a chance to change their mind once they get to school. Now, you remember, you and I are from the 844 system. And in the 844... Okay.
Sorry, I get your point. Yes.
So what happened is that, you remember even when in 844, we used to select subjects, and I think it was in Form 2, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll make a choice in Form 2 and say, now, I want to do this and the 8 subjects I want to pursue. I want to do this and that. But does that mean that that was the end of it? Or because remember, KCSE registration was being done in Form 4. Okay. So a good school would allow you, even before you sit for KCSE, to be able to, make some adjustments. But of course, we give the leeway. We give you up to maybe 1 term or 2 terms for you to make a decision, so that once we are fully decided on what you want to do, it becomes easy. The same thing applies with the pathways.
Okay.
The way the pathways have been, the way selection going to be done, they're going to be done in different ways. Number one is, of course, the pathway selection going to be done by the student. In this case, the student will be able to define the pathway he or she wants to take. So if they say, for example, want to take the STEM as a pathway, then also he must define the track. Now, the track are actually for the STEM, there are 3 tracks. You can pursue what you call the applied sciences, pure sciences, or the technical sciences. And then now from there, once you define the track that you want to go to, you also need to define the subject combination. Now, assuming you want to pursue a field in a career in probably maybe aviation, you could end up taking like aviation as a subject, geography, and what? And physics. So those 3 will be the what called the elective subjects are going to select, in addition to the compulsory that already has been put out there by the ministry. Now, this child probably, he said, I want to do aviation while he's in grade 9. But once you get to school and feel like, okay, I feel like this aviation may not be the place for me. Of course, with the help of the teacher, who is now the guider, the mentor there, the minder, will be able to support and tell this child, of course, through what called psychometric tests. So the psychometric test here, we're going to look at the aptitudes. We're going to look at the interest of this learner. We're going to look at what's the character and so many other aspects, the interest, the likes, and all that. That may not be identified while they're going through the pressure, because you see, when I was in primary, we were told that you need to select at least how many schools. National school, so and so and so forth. Two, yes. So you're just selecting because you want to fill in those gaps. You don't have to be left out. The same way when you go to university, during the joint admission board, when you're doing the joint admission board, selection of universities, you'll say that this is choice 1, choice 2, and so on and so forth. Now, the same applies with the, but now here, the ministry and the schools will allow these students when they come on board. When you feel like I chose to do social sciences and I'm not able to do that, you are allowed to do what? To change. So just to answer your question, nothing's cast on stone.
Okay.
Yes. So these children will have an opportunity to do what? To rethink again, based on the interest and based on the guidance given by now the minders, who are the teachers at that particular time. And of course, the child has to be the center of everything else. As an institution, we are looking at this person as a whole, a holistic child. Let's not push this child to a point of deciding that I want to do the direction simply because that is where maybe we feel there's good things there. So it's not cast on stone, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Stephen, we look at the current generation that we're dealing with, the current crop of students we're dealing with, because you've already mentioned on how we're even disciplining them. And that would also come into what we are putting into them and ways that we're using that. So let's get to technology, because it is an integral part in achieving CBC, the curriculum, and CBE. So in terms of just preparing, in terms of learning, teaching, and even exams using technology, just in terms of investment, just take us through that and what that means both for the teacher, for the parent, and for the student, for these CBE to be a success.
Okay, thank you. One of the key competencies of CBC is about digital literacy. That is one of the competencies that is supposed to be a learner that living this curriculum should be well, grounded in terms of the digital literacy. And of course now